I can list and describe the 4 major causes for the Great Depression. These are the 4 major causes listed in the AP US History exam for the test. Are these really the causes? I'll let you decide. Set a timer for 14 minutes and 30 seconds. I've been told.
Your timer is set for 14 minutes and 30 seconds.
All right. I've been told to scream less during these videos, so I will try my best to not lose my mind, as always. The Great Depression, we're talking about 1929, roughly 1941. Here is the stock market crash on your screen. People become poor. You'll see this is the inverse. Well, I thought it was bad if it went down. Well, the gross domestic product goes down, the Dow Jones goes down, and the unemployment rate goes up. So that's 25% in 1933. 1 in 4 people don't have a job. That's bad. We're talking about the worst economic depression ever. So let's try to figure out what were the 4 main causes, according to the AP US History guideline, for what caused the Great Depression. Are these really the causes? No, but do you need to know them for the test? Yes. Did they add to the depression? Sure. But probably not the truth here. So anyway, the following causes of the Great Depression are factually incorrect. Unfortunately, these lies will be on your AP test, so I will teach them to you. And now, without further ado, the story: the government forces teachers to brainwash their students into believing, so students learn to love big government. Number 1, income disparity. So on your screen, you can see that the rich people, for every $100, are making $95, and the regular working class are making $5. So things get worse. The disparity in between the incomes, the haves and the have-nots. The rich get richer, the poor get poorer, which is a common theme, which exists today. You probably hear this a lot today, income disparity, income disparity. It's one of the problems in America. And that's true. There is income disparity. But guess what? We're not in a Great Depression, and we haven't really been hit that hard. So if it happened then, and it's happening again today, then why aren't we in a giant depression again? If income disparity caused the Great Depression, then we've been hearing about this, how there's a huge disparity between the billionaires and the regular people. Then where's the depression? We've been hearing about it over and over and over. The reality is this has existed since the beginning of time. You can read in the Bible about the Matthew principle or the Matthew effect, which is to those who have, more will be given, and those who have not, everything will be taken away, or you can simply put the rich get richer, the poor get poor. That's always existed throughout time, but we have not always had this giant Great Depression. This would be the only example where we really have a giant depression. So we always have income disparity. It didn't cause a giant depression or economic collapse any other time, just during this time. So why would economic disparity be the main culprit? Anyway, the theory goes that, so as income disparity happens, as the rich get richer and the poor get poorer, the poor or the middle class or the working class has less money to spend. And if they buy less, then companies will make less. And if companies are producing less goods, then they're going to fire workers. And if we have less workers, then they're not making any money now. They went from barely having a little bit to nothing. So if they have nothing, then they're going to make even less, or they're going to buy even less. Because you have no money, you can't buy anything. And if you don't buy anything, they're going to make even less, which means they're going to fire more workers and then more people with $0. And if you have $0, and then it goes down and down and down. So this is the theory that income disparity, or the gap between the wealthy and the poor, and by not having very much money for your middle class or your lower class, as they have less money to spend, then they spend less and the economy collapses. This one, there's some truth to it, but find me another example of a giant economic collapse. We've always had economic or income disparity throughout all of world history. And yet you only have one time where it causes a giant collapse, because it probably didn't cause the giant collapse. Cause number 2 is going to be overspeculation. What does speculate mean? To form a theory or conjecture about a subject without firm evidence. So come up with a theory about something without really knowing a lot about that something, or invest in stocks, property, or other ventures in hope of gain, but with the risk of loss. So what really is to speculate? It's bad gambling a lot of times. Now, you can speculate and be correct, but a lot of times speculation is usually a pejorative, or it's a negative. When we talk about speculating in terms of economics, people are really just gambling on stocks, making gambles that they shouldn't be doing. And then when you're over speculating, then we have way too many people gambling on stocks, making bad investments. Bad investments, well, we'll show you what happens. So The investors, the good investors, the rich are making a killing in the stock market. Eventually, everyday Joes like you and I say, wow, we see these people investing money in businesses. The businesses are growing. The people that invested are making money. They're making a killing. They're getting rich. I want some of that action. I want a piece of that pie. And so everyday people decide they want to get in on speculation. And so let's just say, for example, we're speculating on the apple market and we see apples and we buy a bunch of apples at $5 an apple because we think that, man, apples are going to be all the rage. Everybody's going to want apples in a couple months, so we want in on that. Buy them now because the price is going up. We see everybody else is making money on all these other products. We speculate that it's going to be apples. And then we see the prices go up and the prices go up. And this is naturally the trend that we see in the 1920s up into the Great Depression. Prices are rising and going up. And the reason why is because the government has flooded the market with liquidity. The government has flooded the market with money. They just keep pumping money in and money in. And so people take the money and keep making bets. And as people are speculating, the price is going up. Eventually people realize that apples aren't really worth all that much money and the prices plummet. The prices dropped to their actual price, which was apples were really, this whole time were really only worth $2. And so what's happened is I spent $5 on an apple. Now that apple's only worth $2. I lost $3. Now imagine if a million other people speculated or made these bets as well. Think about all the money that just disappeared, gone. And that means less money, which means if you follow the chain of events, if all of a sudden we suck millions of dollars out of the economy, that means millions of spending, millions of dollars worth of spending. That's not going to happen. And if all of a sudden we start spending less, then companies are going to start making less. If they make less, they're going to have to fire their workers. And as they fire the workers, that means even less spending because those people that have been fired, they can't spend now. And if they can't spend, then it just cycles out of control. And this starts with people speculating, betting on the economy, throwing money in that should not be there, and then the bet doesn't pay off and the money's gone. Now, we're not going to go too much into the details. Another example of this is buying on the margin, which is a bit of an exaggerated form for a cause. But, again, the AP US history guidelines are going to tell you that this is one of the causes for the Great Depression. So I'm going to tell it to you. We've already talked about how the investors are making a bunch of money. Everyday Joes want to get in on this action. You want to invest. You want to make money. You want to gamble and get rich so that you can retire. The problem is you don't have the initial money to invest. You don't have $10,000 laying around. You don't have $100,000 laying around that you can invest in the Apple Corporation. So you go to the bank and you borrow $100,000. Your theory is, I'll just borrow it right now. I'll bet it all on the Apple Corporation. And when Apple does really well, then I can pay back my loan and keep my profits to myself. Seems like a great plan, but is it? This is called buying on the margin. And so you invest in the Apple company and it's doing well, but everyone else is doing that and the prices start to grow. But the reason the prices are growing is not because the actual companies are producing a lot of goods. They are producing a lot of goods and people are spending, but it's not necessarily a real intrinsic value. These values have been inflated because the government lowered interest rates and pumped a bunch of money into the economy. Basically, the government's throwing money, giving out free money. People are spending like crazy and the prices are going up. But these are inflated prices. And eventually they have to come down. Eventually the government realizes what's going on. The government deflates. The government raises interest rates, sucks the money out. As the government sucks the money out of the economy, then people can't spend and the prices crash. They come back to their natural place. And this immediate reaction causes big problems because you now are stuck with $2 apples. And guess what? You've got to pay back your loan. You can't pay back your loan because your original idea was, I'm going to borrow this money. I'm going to bet it on Apple. When I make a bunch of money, then I can pay the loan back. But you bought $5 apples. Now they're only worth $2. You don't have the money anymore to pay back the bank. And when the bank doesn't have money, the bank closes. And so now your stupid mistake, your stupid gamble, and this is not just you, this is thousands of people across America are buying on the margins and making this stupid gamble. So you got thousands of people doing this. That means banks, millions of dollars, gone because of your stupid bet and your speculation. But now it's not just your problem. It's not that you were just broke. you are taking the bank down with you, because now the bank doesn't have any money. And if the bank doesn't have any money, the bank can't give money to other investors, maybe the guy who naturally knew what to invest. Now, if I want to go borrow money, or if the bank's going to give investments so that I can build my factory, I can't do it because the bank went under. The bank collapsed because of your speculation. You borrowed money from the bank, you made a bet, the bet didn't work out, you can't pay the bank back. The bank doesn't have any money. Now the bank is empty, the bank can't loan, and people can't get money from the bank to grow their businesses, so businesses can't grow, and if businesses can't grow, they can't hire more workers, and you know where that goes. So that's number one. Number one is this idea that the disparity, the difference between incomes, the people on the bottom didn't have enough money to spend, and so as they spent less, the economy crashes. Buying on the margins, there's speculation. People are gambling, making bad bets, and the money disappears, but making it worse. People are making bad bets with borrowed money. And when their bad bets don't pay off, then they can't pay back the loans. The banks go down. When the banks go down, investors can't get money from banks. Businesses can't grow if banks don't exist. If businesses can't grow, they shrink. And as they shrink, they fire more workers and the economy goes down. We'll get to 3 and 4 in a second, but let's talk a little bit more about how buying on the margins is not necessarily true. So let's go back, let's rewind. Remember we said that people were betting, they're investing, and the economy collapses because they're bad bets. But worse than that, people are borrowing the money to make these bad bets. So when they want to pay back, they can't, and the banks go down. Here's the question, the common sense question of this. Why would a bank loan money to someone that is gambling with the money? And the common sense answer is they wouldn't. This is not a main cause, but this is a really easy and convenient way for big government to blame businesses and banks in a very simple way for you to understand. It's very easy to say, look, the economy collapsed because the banks were loaning these knuckleheads money and the knuckleheads were gambling it. And so the knuckleheads are knuckleheads because they're gambling it, but the evil banks, they should have never loaned this money out first. The banks are greedy. They were lending money to knuckleheads. So it's the bank's fault. It's the corporation's fault. It's the gambler's fault or the investor's fault. Definitely not the government's fault. Not the government's fault. Bad business. See how convenient and easy this is? But common sense would say, look, banks are not going to give you money to gamble. If you go to Las Vegas, like, all right, I'm just going to need $1 million loan real quick and I'm going to go play some roulette. Can you loan me? A bank's going to say, get out of here. We're not going to give you $1 million to go gamble with because the odds are you're going to lose. You will not be able to pay us back. And so then we are going to go bankrupt and we will not be able to pay people back and we'll go out of business. It's a stupid bet. We're not going to do it. But there is some truth here, right? The APUS guidelines didn't just completely make this up out of nowhere. The government didn't just make up this convenient story out of nowhere. There is some truth. This did happen. There were banks giving out bad loans to people. It's not the main cause, but it is a cause. Banks did make bad loans. These buying on the margins did exist. They did. Like, you kidding me? They were giving loans to people who make bad bets. Yes, they were. Not to the extent that the government wants you to believe, but it was happening. But why was it happening? Why would a bank, common sense says a bank would never do this. Under what circumstances would a government do this, or would a bank do this? We just talked about, like, there's no way they would give you money to gamble. So why would they make this investment? Of course, the government's going to be behind this. The government floods the economy, low interest rates, pumps a bunch of money into the economy, and they create irrational exuberance. Everyone thinks the economy is going to go up, 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 and there's never going to be any bad times. And so the people are willing to make all kinds of over speculative bets, and the banks are willing to make a lot of loans that they normally would not do. In a normal economy where the government's not messing with stuff, the banks say, we're not going to give you that loan. In a normal economy where they're not flooding the economy with cash and pumping it up and up and up and creating this irrational exuberance in normal times, in a normal situation with less government interference, A, the banks don't make these bad loans, and B, the people don't make these bad bets. But when everyone's getting rich around you, the market is flooded with cash, interest rates are super low, it's easy to buy, everything looks like it's going up and up, people are making bets, banks are making bad bets on the people making bad bets. The government, the Federal Reserve, are the ones behind this. If you want to believe that, yeah, buying on the margin is a bit of an issue, well, who set this up? It's not, I mean, sure, the banks are bad for doing this, and the investors are bad for making bad bets. But who created the scenario? Who set the stage for all of this to exist? It was the government. And the same thing will happen in 2008. The government will flood low interest rates, flood the housing market with tons of money, and encourage bad loans and people to take out bad loans. And they'll create the entire, so yes, the banks are evil. Yes, the people are evil. And yes, the government is evil, but that gets left out of our notes in our textbook. So the causes: income disparity, overspeculation, and we'll get to 3 and 4 in the next video.